What if your weight wasn't just a number, but a headline? What if the sheer mass of your body was enough to make history? Sounds unreal, right? But for some people, their size wasn't just a fact of life, it was their legacy. And their stories, they're not just about food or numbers on a scale. They're about tragedy, survival, fame, and even science-defying feats that shocked doctors, historians, and the entire world. Now let me ask you something. Who's the heaviest person you've ever met? Maybe a family member, a friend, or someone you've only seen on TV? What if I told you that their weight, no matter how extreme, doesn't even come close to the people we're about to talk about? And trust me, you're not ready for what's coming. Today, we're diving deep into 5 of history's most jaw-dropping cases of extreme human weight, culminating in the heaviest person ever. You think you've seen it all? Think again. Number 5. Robert Earl Hughes, the heaviest man to ever walk. You are watching Bizarre Nutrition. Hit subscribe, smash that like, and tap the bell if you are ready to go where most people won't. Our first story is unlike anything you'd expect. When you think of someone weighing nearly 1,000 pounds, you probably imagine them bedridden, barely able to move. But Robert Earl Hughes, he walked. Born in 1926 in Illinois, Robert's life started like any other baby's. But at just 5 months old, he contracted whooping cough, a respiratory infection that doctors believe damaged his thyroid, the tiny gland that controls metabolism. And from that moment on, his weight skyrocketed. At 6 years old, he weighed 203 pounds, or about 92 kilograms. At 10, he had doubled that, tipping the scale at over 400 pounds, or roughly 181 kilograms. By the time he was a teenager, he was already heavier than most fully grown men. But here's where things get really shocking. Unlike many in his situation, Robert didn't overeat. His family insisted he ate normal portions, just like everyone else. Yet, his body refused to stop growing. Think about that for a second. Imagine eating like everyone else, but your body keeps getting bigger and bigger, no matter what you do. Can you imagine how frustrating that it would be? By the time he was 21, Robert had become too heavy to work the farm with his family. But instead of hiding away, he did something unexpected. He embraced his size and turned it into a career. Robert began traveling the country as part of a road show, where people paid just to meet him. Some came out of curiosity, others to mock him. But Robert didn't care. He owned it. I can read, write, have a warm and comfortable home, and a fine group of relatives. A lot of other people aren't as fortunate, he once said. It wasn't the life he had planned, but he made the best of it. Robert's fame only grew as the years passed. By the time he was 25, he weighed 896 pounds, or about 406 kilograms, and was officially recognized as the heaviest man in the world at the time. But unlike many others with extreme weight, Robert was still mobile, a true medical anomaly. His body was a mystery. His chest measured 124 inches around, or roughly 3.15 meters, the largest in history. Doctors were baffled. How could someone this heavy still be able to stand, walk, and function without the usual complications that come with extreme obesity? Some believed he had exceptional bone density, others thought it was his unique muscle-to-fat ratio, and some theorized he was just an exception to human biology. Or could it be something no one had ever seen before? No one had an answer, but one thing was sure. His weight was still climbing. Robert's roadshow life gave him financial freedom, but it also came with a price. Constant travel, lack of medical care, public scrutiny. Over time, his body couldn't keep up. Then, in 1958, while on tour in Bremen, Indiana, Robert developed measles. And for someone his size, even a simple infection was catastrophic. Measles. That's what took him down. Not his weight, not a heart attack, just measles. But when you weighed over 1,000 pounds, even the most minor illness can be deadly. His body couldn't fight it off. His weight made it impossible for doctors to treat him properly. His organs were under immense pressure, and after years of defying the odds, his body finally gave out. On July 10th, 1958, at just 32 years old, Robert Earl Hughes passed away. His final recorded weight, 1,041 pounds, or about 472 kilograms. Even in death, his size remained a challenge. A unique casket had to be built using piano crates, and instead of a traditional hearse, he was transported on a flatbed truck. So beloved was he that Robert received 2,000 people to offer their condolences at his funeral. Robert Hughes wasn't supposed to exist the way he did. Science couldn't explain him. He defied every expectation, and in the end, his history is just the beginning. Number 4. Carol Yager, the heaviest woman in history. Some people gain weight because of genetics, others because of lifestyle. But for Carol Yager, her weight was tied to something much darker. Carol wasn't just the heaviest woman in recorded history. She was a tragedy the world watched unfold. At her peak, her weight reportedly reached 1,603 pounds, or roughly 723 kilograms. But even the officially verified number was enough to cement her place in history: 1,189 pounds, or about 539 kilograms. But this story isn't just about numbers, it's about what led her there. Carol's history didn't start with food, it started with trauma. As a child, a close relative sexually abused her, and from that moment on, she turned to eating as her escape. Food became her comfort, her shield, her survival mechanism, but also her prison. She lived in Beecher, near Flint, Michigan, and for most of her life, she depended on others, her daughter, friends, and caregivers, to handle even the simplest daily tasks. But everything changed in January 1993. After spending 9 months unable to walk, Carol's health collapsed. She had to be carried out of her home by 15 firefighters and rushed to the hospital. And that's when history was made. Her recorded weight, 1,189 pounds, or about 539 kilograms, the heaviest a woman has ever officially been documented. And yet, something shocking happened. While in the hospital, Carol lost 521 pounds, or roughly 236 kilograms, in just a few months. Doctors initially credited a strict 1,200 calorie diet, but many believed it was actually severe fluid retention, meaning her body had been storing hundreds of pounds of excess water. So was her extreme weight purely from food consumption, or was there something deeper at play? Here's the contradiction. Carol always insisted she ate normal portions, not excessive amounts. But if that were true, how did a simple hospital stay make over 500 pounds disappear? Despite her weight loss, Carol's condition never truly improved. She was in and out of hospitals, facing endless complications, and the struggle became too much. Just a year and a half after her historic hospitalization, at only 34 years old, Carol Yager died. Her story ended in silence. No grand media spectacle, no major headlines. Her personal life, despite the public curiosity, remained mostly private. Well, except for one detail. Shortly after her death, her boyfriend started dating her best friend, a final twist in a life already filled with pain, mystery, and loss. Carol wasn't just the heaviest woman in history, she was one of the saddest cases of extreme weight ever recorded, life that started in abuse and ended in isolation. 3. Khalid bin Mohsen Shaari, the heaviest young man and the biggest weight loss in history. Extreme weight stories usually end in tragedy, but not this one. This one is different. Meet Khalid bin Mohsen Shaari, a man who holds 2 world records, one for being the heaviest young man ever recorded and the other for achieving the greatest weight loss in human history. At just 22 years old, Khalid weighed 1,345 pounds, or about 610 kilograms, making him the heaviest person alive at the time. His body was on the brink of collapse, but against all odds, his story took a turn that no one saw coming.
Imagine this. You are 22 years old and you weigh over 1,300 pounds. Every moment is a struggle. Every breath is a battle. And then, out of nowhere, a king steps in to save you.
That's exactly what happened. In 2013, Saudi King Abdullah bin Abdulaziz saw Khalid's case and was so moved that he personally ordered Khalid to receive life-saving treatment. The world watched as Khalid was transported to the hospital in the most surreal way possible, by forklift. His body was too large for a stretcher, too fragile for traditional transport. It was a military-level operation just to move him. Once in Riyadh, he began an intensive medical, nutritional, and physiotherapy program. The plan: bariatric surgery, extreme dietary control, and physical therapy. The results were insane. Within just 6 months, Khalid lost half of his weight, over 670 pounds, or roughly 300 kilograms. His body was shrinking faster than anyone thought possible. And yet, he wasn't done. Over the next 4 years, Khalid pushed his body further than anyone in history. And then, in 2017, he stepped onto a scale that confirmed the impossible. His weight, 140 pounds, or about 63.5 kilograms. The largest weight loss ever recorded in a human being.
From 1,345 pounds to 140, from barely surviving to full living. Khalid bin Mohsen Shaari didn't just break records, he rewrote the limits of the human body.
Number 2. Eman Ahmed Abd El-Ati, the highest BMI in history. When we talk about extreme weight, we often obsess over the biggest numbers, 1,000 pounds, 1,500 pounds, or more. But we rarely stop to ask, how is that weight distributed? This is where Eman Ahmed Abd El-Ati stands apart. She wasn't just one of the heaviest women in history, she had the highest body mass index, or BMI, and that made her case unlike any other.
You've heard of BMI before, right? But do you actually know how insane Eman's was? Let me break it down for you.
BMI is a calculation that divides a person's weight by their height squared. It gives us a rough estimate of how weight is distributed across the body. For reference, a normal BMI is between 18.5 and 24.9. Obesity starts at 30. A BMI of 40 or higher is considered morbid, or class 3 obesity. Eman's BMI, 251.1. Let that sink in. Her BMI was 11 times higher than a healthy weight and 6 times higher than the most extreme stage of obesity. Compared to other record-holding, heaviest people, her BMI was 2 to 3 times greater. This wasn't just extreme, it was unthinkable. Eman was just 4 feet 7 inches tall, roughly 1.41 meters, and carried over 1,100 pounds, or about 500 kilograms. Her body wasn't just big, it was compressed, making every movement and breath a battle. Eman was born in Alexandria, Egypt, already weighing 11 pounds or roughly 5 kilograms at birth. She had thyroid problems, lymphedema, and a body that seemed determined to fight against her. Then, at just 11 years old, the worst happened. She suffered a stroke, an event that left her completely bedridden for the next 25 years. That's a quarter of a century without movement. Her muscles atrophied, her fat percentage soared, and her health spiraled into chaos. By the time she was 36, her family desperately sought medical help. For years, doctors had ignored her case, but finally, in 2017, she was flown to India for bariatric surgery, her last hope. The world watched as doctors performed an intense weight loss program, combining surgery with dietary and medical intervention. The results? 716 pounds, or about 325 kilograms, lost in under 4 months. It was a shocking transformation, but it came too late.
Despite the record-breaking weight loss, her body couldn't recover. Just months after her surgery, in September 2017, Eman Ahmed Abdi El-Ati died at the age of 37.
Her story is a reminder that extreme weight isn't just about numbers on the scale. It's about proportions, mobility, and survival. And in Eman's case, it was the heaviest burden anyone had ever carried. Number 1. John Brower, Minnoch, the heaviest human in history. We've seen giants on the scale. We've seen people push the limits of the human body. But now, it's time to talk about the biggest of them all, the heaviest person in recorded history. This is the story of John Brower Minnoch, the man who carried more weight than any human has ever survived.
You think you've seen shocking numbers so far? Think again, because John didn't just break records, he obliterated them.
Born in 1941 in Seattle, Washington, John was big from the start. At just 12 years old, he already weighed 294 pounds, or about 133 kilograms. But unlike most extreme obesity cases, his weight wasn't out of control at first. At 22, he was 392 pounds, or roughly 178 kilograms. Heavy, but not unheard of. He married Jeanette, a woman weighing just 110 pounds, or about 50 kilograms, and together they ran a successful taxi company. For a while, life was normal. But then, everything changed. Within just 10 years, John's weight exploded. At 35, he weighed 975 pounds, or roughly 442 kilograms, a surge that caught the attention of doctors, scientists, and the media. His body was expanding at an impossible rate, and in less than 2 years, things took a turn that no one expected.
John wasn't just the heaviest man alive, he was about to become the heaviest human ever recorded.
In 1978, with his health deteriorating rapidly, John was rushed to Seattle's University Hospital. But getting him there, a logistical nightmare. A special stretcher was built. 12 firefighters had to carry him. He was transported by ferry because no vehicle could hold his size. And when the doctor ran the numbers, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. John weighed 1,400 pounds, or about 635 kilograms. That's not just heavy, that's the weight of a grand piano. His body was 80% fat, and much of it was made worse by severe fluid retention from heart failure. His condition was so extreme that even standing up could kill him. But here's the part that really stunned the doctors. His wife weighed just 110 pounds. That's a difference of 1,290 pounds, or about 585 kilograms, making it the largest weight gap between a couple in recorded history.
Imagine being so heavy that you were literally 7 times the weight of your own spouse.
Doctors immediately placed John on an extreme medical diet, restricting him to 1,200 calories per day. Over the next 2 years, his weight plummeted. By 1980, he had lost 924 pounds, or roughly 419 kilograms, one of the most enormous weight losses ever recorded. But at the same time, his marriage collapsed. He and Jeanette divorced, and John's life spiraled once again. His weight began to climb back up, and soon after, he remarried, this time to Shirley Ann Griffin. But just like before, the weight gain never stopped. John's heart couldn't take it anymore. In September 1983, at just 41 years old, John Brower Minnoch died. His final weight, around 798 pounds, or about 362 kilograms. He left behind 2 children, an ex-wife, a widow, and a medical case so extreme that even today, scientists are still studying it.
John wasn't just the heaviest man in history, he was a human paradox. His body grew beyond all limits, and in the end, it was a battle he couldn't win.
Just walked you through some of the most haunting and impressive stories of human weight ever documented. But here's the twist. Not all of them were the absolute heaviest. That's right, some of the people we focused on were chosen not because they hit the highest number on a scale, but because their stories were too wild to ignore. But for those obsessed with raw numbers, let's settle the score. Here it is, the official top 5 heaviest people ever recorded. Number 5, Robert Butler, 1,200 pounds or about 544 kilograms. Just slightly ahead of Walter Hudson, who deserves honorable mention for his massive 9-foot, 11-inch waist circumference, or roughly 3.02 meters long, still the largest ever recorded. Number 4, Juan Pedro Franco, 1,312 pounds, or about 595 kilograms. The last person to cross the 1,300-pound line, and shockingly, he's still alive today, after losing more than half his body weight. Number 3, Manuel Uribe, 1,316 pounds or roughly 597 kilograms. The second human in history to break the 1,300-pound mark after John. Number 2, Khalid bin Mohsen Shaari, 1,340 pounds or roughly 610 kilograms, still alive, and the man who achieved the largest weight loss in history. Number 1, John Brower Minnoch, 1,400 pounds or about 635 kilograms at peak. The heaviest human in documented history. No one else has ever come close. But before we wrap this up, there's something else, something we can't ignore. A lot of what you've seen online about these people, completely wrong. Misinformation about extreme obesity cases is rampant online, and if you're not careful, you'll be fooled. Let's set the record straight. Many websites mistakenly use images of Robert Earl Hughes when talking about John Brower Minnoch, even though the two look nothing alike and lived decades apart. Then there's Majed al-Dosari, a Saudi man who tragically died from extreme obesity. However, nearly every article online shows his photo while talking about Khalid bin Mohsen Shaari, as if they were the same person. They're not. And what about Suzanne Eman? She once said she wanted to become the heaviest woman ever, but never even crossed the 970-pound or roughly 440 kilogram threshold, the minimum even to make the global list. Still, she's often mistaken for Carol Yager in lazy, error-filled headlines. That's why Bizarre Nutrition is here, to cut through the chaos and bring you what actually matters, the raw, the real, the human. Thanks for staying until the end.